All right. It's the final week of class. So just a quick overview, because we were just talking about this. So this week we have class. So we'll have 3 classes this week here. And then next week is final exam week. So we won't have regular scheduled classes here. Um, Two important things next week. One is the CIS showcase, which is Monday at 4 to 5. That's where you'll demonstrate your app here. You come to the show to the labs here, and all the other students will be computer students will be here, and everyone will be at a computer and show their apps and stuff like that. Everyone will. What you'll do is be given some time to be at your computer, and other people will walk around and say, "What did you do?" And you'll say, "I did this really cool," and you'll tell them what you did, and they'll say, "Can you show it to me?" And you show it to them, and they go, "Wow, I remember back when I was when I was in Java 1, I did something like that," and it'll be fun.
I say no fast.
No, you can't see it. They're only showing it to Tom. You do have to show it to me because I'm the one who are giving you points for that. So the rest is optional. Um, so that's the showcase. If you can't be here from 4 to 5, let me know if you have a work obligation or something like that. But hopefully that works. The other thing is our final exam, which is Wednesday from 8 till 10 there. What I've checked, I believe, is that I don't think there's an exam after our exam from 10 until noon here. So what I think I will do is allow you to come in. You can take the exam. It's similar to the midterm exam, so it should take about an hour to do. And I'll let you start it anytime between 8 and 10. And then once you start it, Brightspace will lock in your time. And then you'll have an hour and 50 minutes to do it, but most students do it in about an hour there. So you don't necessarily be here right o'clock at 8 in the morning. So some of you who are morning people, Sophie's going to be here right o'clock at 8 in the morning because she's definitely a morning person there, right? So if you want to be here right at 8 o'clock in the morning, I will be here. We're ready to go. You can take the exam and be done with it. Then 9:59. You have to start it by 10 o'clock. But then you have the next hour and 50 minutes to do it. Okay?
9:59 on the 15th.
On the 17th? On the 17th, Wednesday.
Where do we find our classes? Final exam.
So if you go to my CSS and you type in final exam schedule in the search bar, it'll find your final exam schedule. And then you look up like this. We are Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11:45. So our exam is Thursday at 8 a.m. And so Thursday is the 18th. Did I have that right? I think we have it on the wrong day. Yeah, we're Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11:45, right? I think we're supposed to be here. What did I put in the syllabus? I put the final exam is Wednesday, the 17th. It should be Thursday, the 18th. Huh. Because Wednesday is the Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9:15 a.m. classes. Okay. So let's update that. That is wrong. Thursday, I don't want to have a Thursday final.
Maybe you could cancel the final.
Maybe we could just cancel the final. Yes. Okay. It is now Thursday. Okay. Uh, you work on something. Okay. I think I work on Thursday too. I like that. So okay.
Yeah.
Uh, yes. Okay. But if you can look at the final exam schedule, and if you read it correctly, it should tell you the correct time to have your final exam there. So that's what everyone uses for that. Okay, so what are we doing today or this week? So we're doing unit 15 is basically a review. So one of the challenges is like what I mentioned earlier, in this class, you both have a final project and a final exam. So we're going to spend much of this week preparing for both here. So we'll have time in class each day to work on the final project. So if you come to class every day, you should be done with your final project, I would say, by the end of the week for that stuff. And so that's the plan. Today we'll talk about adding some advanced features to the final project. Someone already asked about GUI sort of stuff here, so we'll talk about that. On Wednesday, we'll do a review problem for the final exam. We'll break you in teams of two and have you work on one of the review problems for that. That'll be an assignment. It's more like a learning activity that you'll do for things. So you're forced to do a review activity. We'll do that in class on Wednesday. It'll take about half of the time, and the rest of the time you can work on your final project there. And then on Friday will just be time work on the final project. And maybe we'll do it. Well, yeah, we'll talk about maybe Friday. We'll spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes going through there's a bunch of review material here. So on Friday, I'll probably walk through some of this to make sure we remember all this. And if you have any questions on this, we could do an example from this on Friday for the final exam. So today, I'm just going to talk about adding some advanced features for the final projects and then giving you time to work on your final projects. So now remember for the final projects here, you have some requirements, minimal requirements. So you've got to implement some features and you have to implement at least 25 points of features from this list, like if then, a simple if then, or a complex if then, a switch statement, a loop, multiple loops, a random numbers, a simple method with no parameters, or a complex method with parameters or return type, an array or array list there. So we've got to implement enough of this to get yourself to 25 points of work there. And I went through most of your project descriptions if you submitted one, and most of them look pretty good. I know a couple of people I submitted descriptions that this looks a little bit too complex. You might want to simplify it, or else I don't know if you have enough here to get all of this in here. It looks like a little bit too simple. Maybe add this little complexity to make it a little more here. So that's what we're going to do. But what if you wanted to go beyond the minimum requirement here? You can add some advanced features here. Some people are talking about doing a GUI for this. So you can use GUI. I suggest though there's not a default way of doing user interface, a graphical user interface with buttons and stuff in Java. There are probably three main competitive ways. And to tell you the truth, a lot of times now it's done on a web page, and the web page is the front end. It calls maybe a Java backend, and that's more complicated than we can set up here. But the simplest way is to use something called Swing. It's a library for graphical user interfaces here. And so you can use Java Swing for this. I think, I don't know where. And so again, one thing I'll let you do is, Java Point isn't there. I'll update this link. I don't know why that Swing tutorial is gone. You can use AI. You have to be careful how you want to use AI in this class. I don't want you to use AI, of course, to do the whole project. You can do some of the coding. You can ask AI like to help you figure out the structure of your code, and you can then write the code. You can have AI debug, help you debug the code there. But I don't want AI to be doing all of it. For example, I know someone was writing a summary and they're talking about defining a class, adding a class to that. Well, we haven't covered how to do classes, and we won't until Java 2. So I don't want to necessarily have you using that in this. You can do this project without using classes. So I'd recommend you do that there. But like if you want to add a GUI, I would let you use AI to set up the GUI and help you create the GUI, and then you do the underlying stuff there. So that would be okay as long, and then you can kind of differentiate and be able to describe it. One of the things you have to do when you submit the project is walk through the code and say where you use AI and where you didn't. And so you can say, oh, this section that did the GUI, I used AI for, but then this section that did the normal stuff, I worked on myself there. So you can, but when you're using AI to help with the GUI, make sure I would tell it to use Swing, the Swing library, and we're using Swing with Java for helping. The other thing some people like to do is reading data from APIs. There's a lot of public APIs there, so sometimes people want to get like the weather forecast there. We looked at that. Sometimes you want to get maybe the newest standings from a sports league or something like that there. Or, you want to do a Pokemon thing, and so you want to get have a Pokédex of all the Pokemon out there. There's an API that'll show you all the magic cards, all the Pokemon cards, or all the, you pick it, there's probably an API for it there. And so sometimes that helps there. I know someone was doing baby names. I was wondering if there's a baby name API or at least a resource for that. So that's pulling data from here. And again, you can use AI to help parse or work with that here. Another thing is you may want to store some data locally here. So we usually store, I generally recommend to store data locally in a file called JSON, but you can use what are called comma separated values or XML here. Any of these three work. I think probably right now JSON is the most common of these. So again, if you want data there, so again, I was thinking of the person who was doing baby names. Maybe you want to just grab a file of, the 1,000 most common baby names or something like that, and maybe some characteristics of them, and bring that into a JSON file, and then you would, or else have AI generate that, and then you would read that in rather than initialize your array. It's not bad to initialize your, if you have 20, 30 things you want to put in an array, you can hard code that in. But if you want to load in 500 things into an array, that's hard to do right in code. It's better to probably do that in a file and write a little routine, or have AI write a little routine to read it in from that file for this. So, and again, make sure you're documenting your AI use and where you're using AI, and try to use a clear delimiter in your mind. I'm using AI to do this and this, but I'm doing this and this. So try to keep that straight. Questions on these? If there's any other advanced things you want to try or think could do, let me know, and we can talk about that too. All right. I think I am going to let you work on your project. So I'll go around. I want to check with in with each of you on your project, how it's going, and make sure you're on staff for it. And see how it goes. So why don't you start working on your project, see how far you're getting with it today.